Chapter 278, Meeting Seraph. Rina quickly stood up as well, understanding clearly his deep concern. She nodded warmly, offering a reassuring smile. Yes, young master. She'll be very happy to see you awake again. With a gentle nod, Orion quietly moved toward the door, his mind already carefully considering the words he would speak to comfort Seraph, hoping deeply to erase the quiet sadness that had likely accumulated in her heart over these many months. Sunlight filtered gently through the sheer curtains of Seraph's modest yet warmly furnished room, casting soft patterns across the wooden table where she sat quietly. A small stack of carefully arranged parchments rested before her, each page meticulously filled with simple sentences, letters, and carefully practiced syllables, a testament to months of painstaking effort in reclaiming her lost voice. Seraph gazed silently out the window, emerald eyes fixed absently on the distant garden beyond, yet unfocused, her thoughts far away from the serene scenery. The delicate features of her face bore a subtle sadness, tinged with lingering hope, as memories of Orion drifted continually through her mind. She often wondered if the warmth she once felt in his presence had vanished forever. Days had turned to weeks, weeks into months, yet his absence had only deepened the ache inside her heart. Even after learning of his condition from Rina and seeing him herself, the worry that Orion might never awaken again haunted her continuously. Her quiet heart held on to a fragile hope, a gentle whisper promising her that someday Orion would return. Suddenly, in the gentle stillness of her room, faint sounds echoed softly down the corridor outside. Seraph's distant gaze immediately focused, her delicate frame tensing instinctively at the unfamiliar yet deeply familiar rhythm of footsteps approaching. Her heartbeat quickened, breath hitching slightly in hopeful anticipation. Those footsteps, she thought urgently, her body trembling softly with barely restrained emotion. Her pulse quickened as her ears strained desperately to confirm what her heart already knew, this rhythmic, steady sound belonged unmistakably to Orion. Disbelief and hope surged simultaneously within her chest. In an instant, her gentle quietness gave way to action. She hurriedly stood up from her chair, nearly knocking it backward in her haste, rushing swiftly toward the closed door without any hesitation. Heart pounding fiercely in her chest, Seraph swiftly grasped the handle, flinging the door open eagerly before Orion even had a chance to knock. Her eyes widened sharply, emerald green depths instantly filling with shimmering tears of profound relief, disbelief, and overwhelming joy. Standing calmly before her, a gentle and affectionate smile upon his familiar face, was Orion, alive, awake, and whole. "Long time no see, Seraph," he greeted softly, voice filled with gentle warmth, the comforting resonance she had missed deeply for countless months. Without even a moment's hesitation, Seraph rushed into his welcoming embrace, tears streaming freely down her pale cheeks as her slender frame shook softly against him. Her arms clung desperately to his body, as though afraid he'd vanish again at any moment. "I thought you abandoned me," she sobbed out haltingly, her voice still broken and uncertain despite months of painstaking practice. Each word was fractured, yet clearly conveying the profound hurt and loneliness she'd endured during Orion's absence. Orion's heart twisted gently with deep remorse and compassion at her raw, unguarded emotion. He tenderly wrapped his strong arms around her trembling form, pulling her closer into a reassuring embrace as he gently patted her back. "How could I ever abandon you, Seraph?" Orion softly reassured her, voice calm yet sincere, carrying the gentle warmth she'd always known from him. "I'm sorry I made you wait for so long." She shook her head slightly, face still pressed tightly against his chest as her gentle sobs gradually quieted. Her voice came softly, still choked with tears. "Because you went away and didn't visit for months. Only after months did Rina finally tell me about your condition." Orion released a quiet sigh filled with regret and understanding, holding her tighter in gentle reassurance. "Forgive them, Seraph. Everyone was so busy and overwhelmed with responsibilities because of me that they genuinely forgot to inform you. They never meant to neglect you." She nodded softly against his chest, gradually calming under Orion's patient comfort. Her quiet sobbing subsided into gentle, occasional hiccups, and the tension slowly began easing from her slender frame. They stood together in peaceful silence for a few moments, simply holding each other warmly, each deriving quiet comfort from the other's presence. Orion continued softly patting her back, wearing a melancholic yet gentle smile filled with warmth. He understood clearly the depth of loneliness she'd faced during his prolonged absence. Gently stroking her emerald green hair, Orion softly murmured soothing words to her, calming her down further. After several moments of quiet comfort, Seraph finally lifted her head slowly from Orion's embrace, wiping the lingering tears from her soft, flushed cheeks. Orion smiled gently, warmth radiating from his expression as he softly led her back inside her cozy room, gently closing the door behind them. They settled comfortably at their usual spot by the window, the gentle sunlight casting a warm glow upon the table. Orion's gaze swept curiously across the neatly stacked parchments, his eyes momentarily widening in realization. He had been so preoccupied with concern for Seraph's emotional well-being that he'd completely overlooked her newfound ability to speak, albeit haltingly and with considerable effort. A gentle, delighted smile spread slowly across his face, eyes gleaming brightly with pride and genuine happiness as he turned toward her. "You can speak now, Seraph? That's wonderful news. Given some time, you'll surely speak naturally again." Seraph felt her heart skip softly, warmth spreading pleasantly through her chest at his heartfelt praise. After months of silent, painstaking effort, his acknowledgement filled her with quiet pride and happiness. Her emerald eyes sparkled softly as a gentle smile finally returned to her delicate face, brightening her gentle beauty. Nodding shyly, she responded softly, her voice still hesitant yet more confident than before, "Yes. I still feel unfamiliar speaking." Orion's gaze softened with gentle understanding, warmly encouraging her without pressure. "Don't worry, Seraph. Take as long as you need. There's no rush." She smiled sweetly, comforted by his reassuring words, and gently nodded once more, clearly feeling happier than she had in months. Seeing her expression ease, Orion shifted the topic gently, eyes thoughtful yet sincere. "Now, let me tell you about what exactly happened during the battle, and why I was unconscious for such a long time." Seraph's heart swelled warmly at his words, a nostalgic feeling filling her as she remembered the countless evenings they spent exactly like this, Orion narrating stories about his daily experiences, and she quietly listening, finding gentle joy in his animated expressions. Just as Orion prepared to recount the story, he paused abruptly, his expression suddenly shifting into one of mild confusion and curiosity. Tilting his head slightly, he asked her, mildly disappointed, "By the way, Seraph, why didn't you react at all to my changes? I was so looking forward to seeing your reaction, especially to my eyes." A flash of surprise crossed Seraph's gentle features, her emerald gaze widening softly in realization. She had been so overwhelmed by emotion upon seeing him awake that she'd entirely forgotten to observe the remarkable changes he'd undergone during his evolution. Leaning forward slightly, she carefully studied Orion's figure. She softly gasped in surprise, finally noticing his increased height, his taller stature radiating a calm, powerful presence that differed from before. Her gaze then traveled upward to his face, and her eyes widened further as she noticed his vividly transformed heterochromatic eyes, one blazing fiery red and the other gleaming with striking lightning purple. "I forgot to observe it," she murmured softly, her expression adorably embarrassed, cheeks slightly flushed in gentle chagrin. Chapter 279, Elixir. Orion chuckled, gently shaking his head in mild amusement before beginning his recount of the intense battle and the subsequent months spent unconscious, thoroughly explaining the details with patient clarity. Seraph listened quietly, her gentle gaze never leaving his face, genuinely absorbed in his recounting of events, emotions flowing clearly within her expressive emerald eyes, concern, admiration, worry, and ultimately relief that he had returned safely to her side. They continued chatting comfortably for a while, enjoying the gentle warmth and quiet companionship they had both missed deeply. Eventually, Orion's expression turned quietly serious, his gaze thoughtful yet gently determined as he looked directly into Seraph's eyes. With careful deliberation, he softly asked the question that had lingered unspoken for so long, "Seraph, now that you can speak again, I wanted to ask you something important. Are you afflicted with any kind of curse? Seraph immediately hesitated, her slender fingers nervously tightening around the edges of her gown. After a moment of quiet internal struggle, she exhaled softly, finally nodding gently in affirmation. Her voice was quiet, her expression carrying faint sadness. Yes. Orion nodded calmly, his expression kind yet determined as he carefully retrieved the 3 lives morning dew from his inventory, gently placing the exquisite treasure upon the table before her. The small vial shimmered faintly under the sunlight, exuding a gentle, calming energy. This is a special treasure, Orion explained gently, his voice filled with hopeful sincerity. It can heal nearly any injury and even possesses powerful curse removal properties. Why don't you try using it? Perhaps it might help you. Seraph gazed quietly at the exquisite vial for a long moment, her emerald eyes reflecting uncertainty and a gentle sense of awe. Slowly, she raised her gaze, meeting Orion's earnest, reassuring eyes. She shook her head softly, her voice hesitant yet sincere. This is too precious for me. Orion laughed out loud, the clear, joyful sound filling the room with comforting warmth as he gently shook his head. His eyes sparkled playfully yet genuinely affectionate as he responded warmly, "You're far more precious to me than this little elixir, Seraph. Please, just try it. I'm not entirely sure how effective it'll be, but we have nothing to lose." Her heart swelled gently at his sincere words, warmth spreading pleasantly through her entire body. A gentle smile finally returned to her face, genuine and filled with trust, as she slowly reached toward the vial, fingers gently wrapping around it. She carefully held it close, her emerald eyes meeting Orion's gaze, clearly expressing quiet gratitude and trust. With a soft nod, she gently whispered, "Then I'll try." "Thank you, Orion." Orion nodded gently, observing Seraph as she carefully uncorked the delicate vial. The gentle scent of morning dew and blooming flowers drifted softly through the air, filling the room with a comforting fragrance. Orion's gaze remained fixed on Seraph's emerald eyes, steady and reassuring, silently encouraging her to proceed. Holding the vial with delicate fingers, Seraph inhaled softly, steeling her nerves. Her gentle eyes locked briefly with Orion's once more, absorbing the quiet reassurance he offered. She tilted the vial upward, the crystal-clear liquid flowing smoothly past her lips as she emptied its contents in a single, determined gulp. Both Orion and Seraph fell into silence, eyes gently locked onto each other, waiting breathlessly for the elixir's effects to manifest. For several moments, nothing appeared to happen, the gentle warmth of sunlight the only sensation lingering in the silent room. Orion's brows furrowed slightly, anxiety beginning to creep into his heart, wondering if perhaps he'd raised Seraph's hopes prematurely. Just as he was about to speak, a sudden surge of powerful vitality abruptly radiated from Seraph's slender form. It washed through the room in tangible waves of intense life energy, vibrant and rejuvenating, causing Orion's eyes to widen slightly in surprise and awe. Seraph's body instinctively rose from her seat, standing shakily as her entire form began visibly regenerating. Orion watched in astonishment as every tiny scar that marred her once delicate skin faded rapidly, vanishing completely and leaving behind flawlessly pristine, porcelain-like skin glowing with a healthy shade. The marks on her hands, remnants of a painful past, smoothed away before his eyes, her body visibly growing stronger, healthier, and more vibrant with each passing second. A soft gasp of astonishment and relief escaped Orion's lips, marveling at the miraculous changes manifesting before him. He could clearly sense the powerful life force coursing through her body, gently revitalizing every inch of her. However, just as hope bloomed warmly in Orion's heart, the energy from the elixir seemed to encounter a stubborn resistance, an invisible, immovable barrier deep within Seraph's very soul. The elixir's power strained visibly, fiercely attempting to dissolve the mysterious curse binding Seraph, yet despite its best efforts, the curse remained resolutely unmoved, unyielding against the relentless assault of powerful healing energy. Seraph's breathing quickened softly, her eyes flickering briefly with confusion and uncertainty. A tremble passed through her slender frame, the resistance clearly taking a toll on her. Orion's expression instantly shifted into one of worry and concern, his heart clenching tightly as he saw the healing power of the elixir slowly receding in defeat, unable to pierce through the unyielding wall of the curse. In the depths of Orion's sea of consciousness, Astarax's gentle, melodic voice resonated clearly, tinged with solemnity and seriousness. This curse. It's not simple at all, Orion. Ordinary methods, even treasures like the 3 lives morning dew, won't be enough. You need to identify precisely what kind of curse it is and then use very specific, potent materials tailored explicitly to counter it. Orion's expression hardened determinedly, absorbing her words as frustration surged within his chest. His fists clenched tightly at his sides, his mind already racing to figure out the next course of action. However, before he could respond further, his attention was urgently redirected toward Seraph as the elixir's effects dissipated rapidly. Seraph's delicate frame abruptly swayed, her emerald eyes fluttering briefly before gently falling closed as unconsciousness claimed her. Orion instantly surged forward with swift movements, strong arms encircling her slender body and carefully catching her as she collapsed gracefully into his embrace. Holding her gently, Orion's concerned gaze softened as he carefully examined her now perfectly pristine and luminous skin. Her delicate face, framed by cascades of silken emerald hair, radiated quiet serenity and vulnerability, making his heart tighten gently within his chest. In that brief moment, Orion was reminded once more that Seraph's beauty far surpassed any other he had ever encountered. Realizing quickly that Seraph had simply fainted from exhaustion and strain rather than genuine harm, Orion released a soft breath of relief. Carefully lifting her in his arms, he moved quietly toward her bed, laying her gently upon its soft surface with utmost care. He thoughtfully tucked the warm blanket snugly around her, ensuring her comfort. As Orion gently brushed a stray strand of emerald hair away from her peaceful face, his mind filled with quiet contemplation. Seraph's peaceful expression deeply moved him, strengthening his determination to free her from the relentless curse imprisoning her life. His voice resonated quietly within his sea of consciousness, directed toward Astaraxa as he asked, "Astaraxa, you seem knowledgeable about curses. Can you sense anything specific about Seraph's curse?"